Hello everyone and welcome to Leah's Book Picks. I'm Leah Eichler, and in Leah's Book Picks, I pick a book I like and I review it in under 5 minutes. Today's book pick is Just Once No More by Charles Foran. Just Once No More on Fathers, Sons, and Who We Are Until We Are No Longer, and is published by Knopf Canada. Just Once No More is the first memoir in my 5-minute book review series, and it's the perfect segue between fiction and nonfiction. The writing is drippingly poetic and dreamy, and the author, Charles Foran, keeps the reader wondering at points what's real and what's not. Foran starts off by telling us that this is a book about his father, Dave Foran, in the last year of his life. In the opening pages, we are greeted with this larger-than-life figure who survived against all odds. In his father's early 20s, while walking the 6 hours to meet up with the author's mother at her home in Blind River in northeastern Ontario, he brushes up against a bear in the bush. The experience startles both of them, Charles's father and the bear, but Charles's father had a gun and shot the bear at close range in the head. Luckily, the bear didn't fall on him, which Charles tells us would just have been another way for Dave Foran to die. The bear story, I imagine, is one that Charles had heard many times growing up. It pits his dad against nature and gives him an almost mythical aura. As a reader, I'm hooked on the story and on this man who survived when most wouldn't. You see, Charles had faced death before. He survived years in the bush, at one point going snowblind, where he waited for days alone in a tent before his sight returned. He'd been shot at. He was abandoned by his alcoholic mother and his military father. And these experiences left a man who was emotionally reticent, but trusting only his wife. We don't know the full extent of Charles's relationship with his father, but we gather it wasn't as emotionally connected as someone like Charles, a sensitive artist type, would have liked. Charles says that the decision to write about his father, when his father turned 83 and entered the hospital for good, took him by surprise. The need to write about my father came as a surprise. I had not written much about him before and had plenty else in my mind and in my computer. But once he began his final and it turned out slow decline, I started wanting to track it and him more closely, not as a hunter, but as an investigator, possibly an interrogator as well. At the onset, I could boast clear and honorable motives: to help lift an inchoate burden from his shoulders, to absolve him of the shame that composed much of that lifelong weight, to reassure him that he was loved, to get him to explain why he could never be close to anyone except Mariel. How I wished all this for my father and for me, but mostly, I was certain, for him. The book is divided in half. The first half takes place before his father died, and the second half takes place after. But even in the moments where Foran meditates on everything from Samuel Beckett to the large Hadron Collider, to ruins in Bali, to traditional Irish music, to the Chinese philosopher Chuang Tzu's dream of a butterfly, his father is always present, always looking. Meanwhile, Charles is getting older. He laments lost loves, lost opportunities, and lost friendships. As he watches his father die, he examines his own mind and body as he ages, and he notices that he appears to feel things more deeply. He watches pigeons. He worries about animals. He cries more easily. Foran, who eventually requires stents to be placed in his heart, realizes that his heart is broken, in this case not from loss or from love, but from genetics and aging. Foran becomes just another one in a long list of family members whose existence seems fleeting, and he strives to understand himself before it's too late. We leave the book with this understanding that our time here on earth is also fleeting, but so utterly magnificent. Ultimately, Just Once No More is an elegy to a father, but also to a life that is fragile and elusive. The author experiences life so deeply that the beauty of everyday moments is not lost in us either. This book opened my eyes to what a memoir can be. It's small, not only in length at under 200 pages, but micro-focused on one man, one family, and that feeling of loss and aging. Sometimes in writing memoirs, we want to go big, but this served as a reminder how focusing so particularly on one person's life really placing it under a microscope can turn out to be the most profound and universal subject there is. At one point, while Charles is visiting his father in the hospital, his father recounts a dream he had with his own father, entreating him to wake up, don't sleep so much. It's a lesson the reader's meant to take to heart. Wake up, don't sleep through life. We are here but for a moment, just once and no more. Thanks again for tuning in to Leah's Book Picks, Just Once No More. If you have recommendations, please leave them in the comments.